From moms and dads to professional athletes, just about everyone on the planet struggles with some degree of body dysmorphia. Let's dive in. Now, a general definition of body dysmorphia is a mental health condition where a person spends a lot of time worrying about flaws in their appearance. Now, there's different levels to this, and there's different, obviously aspects to it. I think for a time, a lot of bodybuilders and just men in general would refer to it as bigorexia, where they always saw themselves as like a much smaller version than they were. I know I've struggled with that personally, and it's something where once that's in our head, and it's in most of our heads again to some degree, we let that dictate the direction we want to take our health and fitness journey. So for myself personally, I talked to you guys a couple episodes back about how I would just bounce back and forth like a ping pong ball between bulks and cuts, trying to put on more muscle and then, lean back out, put on more muscle, lean back out, and just end up kind of in a spin cycle where you landed at the same exact position. And my most dramatic version of that was back in 2014, 2015. I bulked all the way to 227 pounds. For whatever reason, 225 was always the goal I had in my mind for the weight I wanted to sit at. Realized I was way too fluffy, and I ended up cutting all the way back down to 177. So both ends of that extreme. I got as big as I could, and then I got as lean as I could, and I still wasn't happy on either end of the spectrum. And it really wasn't until probably this past year where I took some time to settle into a gaintaining phase and just focus on being healthy, doing the right things, and just allowing my physique to adapt accordingly based on doing things the right way. But so many of us dive into this with the thought that I want to fix my belly fat or my underarm fat, and I really want to target this specific area, or I hate this part of my body, or I hate my body as a whole, or I need this complete transformation. And a lot of times it starts in our minds with unrealistic expectations based on our environment, based on the things that we're following, based on all of our inputs, all the things that we're taking in. So I thought this is a very important topic to dive into today.
I think it's interesting because I think you mentioned how men kind of have the opposite effect where you think you're a lot smaller than you are. And I feel like it's completely 180 for women. Like we think we're bigger than we are, or we just look bloated or fluffy or whatever the words that you want to use are. And it's interesting because for me, it was really just heightened at my bodybuilding stage of life where I did a bodybuilding show. And after the show, you obviously are not going to continue eating 1,200 calories every single day for the rest of your life. So you kind of go through this like experience of getting super, super lean and like super depleted, and you feel really crappy in many areas. We've touched on that experience in a couple episodes. But then you come out of it and it's like you eat one day of eating normally that's a little more than 1,200 calories, and you literally feel like you gained 20 pounds, even though you didn't. Now, granted, some people do, and some people don't reverse out of that the right way. But I think with the fitness industry, a lot of what it was in the 2014 to 2016, 17 era was so like bodybuilding was like the thing, like that was the popular thing, like how we're seeing hybrid training and running right now. That's what bodybuilding used to be on fitness social media in 2014 to 2017 ish. So I feel like a lot of everyday average Joes sort of adapted this bodybuilding approach to training, to nutrition, to just fitness in general, and kind of viewed that as this is what I need to do to be healthy and to look shredded and to get abs and to have a butt and to just be super toned. When we know now, we've known for a while, but a lot of the people out there now know that's not a healthy route to go for anyone. And I'll boldly say I will never do a bodybuilding competition again. And I don't use the word never often. But that is not a healthy approach to your health and fitness, period.
Yeah, and I think it's probably not discussed often enough, common misconception, whatever you want to label it, that body dysmorphia and body image issues and confidence issues in that regard are more related to women, and men struggle with that less. I would say maybe we do it quieter. Some people do, some people don't. But again, we have these ideals we look up to and these people we follow. But even growing up, I know for myself and a lot of guys, I loved Greek mythology, but it was the Avengers or DC Comics. We always grew up, watching superheroes. Everyone wants to be a superhero. And then there was this era that you referenced where everybody looked like that. Everyone looked like a Greek god. Everybody looked like they belonged in the Avengers comics and the Avengers movies. And that was something we all aspired to be. And at the time, performance enhancing drugs weren't really talked about that much. And, you just assumed outside of the obvious that most people were still natural, especially in the physique division, not bodybuilding division of bodybuilding, but the physique division of bodybuilding. Like, oh, that seems achievable. Most of the cases, it's not. Like, that's still a guy who's usually 5'9", weighing 220 pounds at 4 to 6% body fat, absolutely yoked. And they're not doing it naturally, but it wasn't discussed. So we grew up thinking we could do that. We could get to that point just by, taking the things that were in those bodybuilding magazines or bodybuilding.com's top 50 at the time. That was the big thing. And it's not something you can just shake. When you grew up with something like that in the back of your mind, that was always a goal. So now what has shifted is we have people jumping onto PEDs at an earlier age, and they really need to. And it's something where it can be beneficial in a lot of situations and a lot of circumstances, but there are 50 steps you should be taking prior to jumping on PEDs and a testosterone replacement, hormone replacement therapy, even peptides. Getting everything in order. The drugs are not a shortcut. They're going to make it look like a shortcut because you will, if you're training the right way and eating the right way, you're going to gain a ton of muscle and you're going to get shredded and everything looks fine. But it's not ideal for optimal health, and you're reliant on that for the rest of your life. And all the things that you just covered up are still unresolved. Your sleeping pattern, your overall diet, the nutrient intake, not just, let's say you get shredded, you can still be consuming an appropriate amount of calories, but from poor sources. Gut health is atrocious. Cardiovascular health hasn't been focused on. So all of these little things, stress management, we can go on and on, but checking those boxes first, which is going to take more work, but it's going to lead to a better physique. And more importantly, it's going to lead to more optimal health. So I'm hoping, and it kind of seems like, especially with the hybrid stuff coming out now, and that's kind of the new focus, and it's less, bodybuilder. We see what these guys are going through. Not that that's getting pushed to the side, but there is more of an overall health focus, luckily, and longevity. There just needs to be a better understanding of what work to put in over here first and kind of build up to those steps. And eventually, if you run your labs and you do need testosterone replacement therapy, any kind of hormone replacement therapy, great. It's there as a tool, but we can't circumvent these steps in between. But that's kind of, a long-winded dialogue for what we're even just jumped in on, as far as just this is where the mindset is and this is where we think we need to be happy, healthy, and motivated to keep moving forward.
Yeah. And listen, it's not that we're against people wanting to improve how they look. I feel like that's a common goal for probably 95% of our clients who come to us, is they have some type of body composition goal, whether that's to lose body fat, appear more toned, gain muscle mass, whatever it may be. We're not against that. We support that fully.
And most people need it, given the fact that most of the world is obese. You need to improve body comp.
But it can't be just about that. You can't just work out to have an outcome of how you want your body to look, and that's it. Like, that can't be your only reason to show up to the gym every day, because then what happens when, for instance, I see this all the time with my female clients who then get pregnant, and prior to pregnancy, they've only shown up to the gym because they've been in a fat loss phase or want to change how their body appears, and they don't really have any other really drive to be there except this outcome oriented goal. So then they get pregnant and it's like, well, I don't really have a reason to be here anymore, so I'm just not going to go. They just stop working out completely. That's just one example, or they want to continue working out and they just feel like they have no motivation to get to the gym because that goal, that reason for them being there, poof, gone. They obviously cannot lose body fat while they're pregnant. They can't change how their body is appear more toned while they get pregnant, maybe to some extent. But it's a serious issue if the only reason you show up for your workouts is to make your arms look more toned or lose your stomach or grow your butt. That's not enough for you to make this a lifestyle change.
And you can do all those things. There's nothing wrong with doing all those things. But again, it's in accordance with a proper lifestyle regimen. It's not just going for these things. You have to get back to your why. And this is something that on our prospect calls, it's one of the first things I bring up. I want to get more lean. I want to lose weight. I want to hit this performance goal, whatever it is. Okay, that's awesome. We're going to get you there. But once we do those things, how does your life change? What gets better? How does this affect all the other areas of your life? And I make them say those things out loud, and we'll go through that process as well, when they dive in with a coach. But it's because when motivation's running dry, when you don't feel like waking up, you're less concerned. Like, you know what? Fuck my six pack today. It doesn't matter. I have no energy. I don't feel like going. The motivation well is dry. So what gets you to go anyway? What fills that fuel tank? What gets you up, moving, checking those boxes? It's the underlying reason. It's the root cause. It's the true why of why you want to get there. I want more confidence. I want to have more energy with my kids. I want to be more productive at work. I want to improve my mental health. So when I do these little things, even if I'm not going full force, I'm feeling shitty, so it's not going to be a great workout, I'm still showing up today because it's going to accomplish these other things and make me better in these other areas, even though this might not be the most productive body composition, strength improving workout today, because today's going to suck for me.
Yeah. And someone just asked me on my Q&A today. We're not doing a Q&A on here today, but I think this is relevant. She said something along the lines of like, how do you keep your training and nutrition a priority when you're feeling burnt out by life? And I think that's another great example. Like maybe it's not pregnancy. Maybe you have a crap ton of things going on with work and the kids and just personal life things. And again, if you're only focused on the six pack or losing body fat or appearing more toned, and that's your only reason for working out and meal prepping and doing everything that you're doing, it's really easy to let that go when you're stressed in other areas. Like the second you're overwhelmed, yeah, no, I'm not going to go to the gym today. Oh, I'm not going to meal prep. I have too much going on. But if you flip the script and if you have a deeper reason for doing it, for us, it's literally, I cannot function well if I don't eat well and if I don't move my body. Like I am a miserable person if I don't do those things on a daily basis. So I know that when I'm in a period of high stress and we have a lot going on with work, school starting, this is a great transitional period for a lot of people. School starting, you're adjusting to new schedules with getting your kids back to school. Maybe sports are starting back up. It's going to feel really stressful for a little while. So if you don't have your ducks in a row and if you don't fully understand why you're doing these things deeper than just because you want to look a certain way, it's going to be really easy to just not be consistent and not make them a priority because everything else is going to feel so much more important than that. But if you know why you're doing it, and I know why I show up to the gym every day and wake up early for my runs, and we make sure we have protein and some basics prepped for food, that makes everything else in my life so much easier and more enjoyable. So it's not as simple as, oh, just make it a priority. You have to know why.
And that's why, we talk about very similar concepts in just about every single podcast episode, every post on social, every YouTube video, because it's just the same thing in a different way. There are these different areas you need to be checking off to make sure this is changing your life. It's making an impact in your life. And the central theme right now is lifestyle. It's not a program. It's not a challenge, a short-term thing we're following for this short period of time. When we create a healthy lifestyle, everything else gets better. So again, if I skip a workout, I know that affects my mental health. So I'm going to do something, whether it's movement or an extra meditation session or whatever. I know I have to do some other things to make that better. Not to mention, when we hit a funk, and I'm personally in a funk right now, work has been busy. We have a lot of stuff just tangled up, and it's trying to untangle those things and figure it all out. I've lifted 3 days a week for probably the last 3 weeks. So I definitely feel better on the days I'm lifting. But at the same time, the rest of my stuff, the rest of my regimen doesn't fall off track. That's the importance of we talk about within our 5 pillars: training, nutrition, mindset, movement, habits. When one kind of shifts because life gets nuts, the rest hold it up. So rather than building this whole thing on a house of cards, we have a much more stable foundation. So my other pillars, nutrition, mindset, movement, habits, are, even though I'm not stopping training, I've scaled back. I've missed a single workout a week for the past 3 weeks. Those other 4 pillars are allowing me to continue to move forward and not totally hit the fan and not be this giant mess mentally. So that's why, it's not just I'm here to change my body, because right now my body won't be changing. I'm training 3 days a week and everything's not on point. I'm doing it to be a good father, husband, friend, business owner, helper of people, whatever you want to call it that we do. You got to keep showing up for yourself and make sure that there are little things you can do every single day that allow you to continue filling your cup. So full circle back to the body dysmorphia. If you're only focused on improving your body composition, when life gets tough, when stress spikes, you've got a busy project at work, everything hits the fan. And then not only you're not moving towards your physical goals, you're going to be sliding back because you have no foundation below that when you're not dialed in on training and dialed in on your on your nutritional stuff. When everything else is in place, you can at least maintain and you're going to feel good and you can pick stuff back up right where you left off and continue climbing that ladder rather than this up and down roller coaster.
Yeah. And I think when it comes to body dysmorphia and how you view your body, like think about how you view yourself right now. And I would guess that majority of you listening probably are not like, oh, I love my body so much every single day. Like, I think that's very rare unless you've been putting in the work. So if you're somebody who really just tends to pick yourself apart and you're constantly waking up or throughout the day, you're looking in the mirror and looking at all the things that you really just hate about yourself and you're vocalizing that, maybe not out loud, but you're thinking it in your head. I think one of the most simple things that you can start doing, aside from figuring out your why and other reasons why you're doing these things, is to just kind of look at yourself from a neutral lens. I think we think that we have to either love our body or hate it. And a lot of us are in the hate cycle and picking ourselves apart and comparing ourselves, when in reality, our bodies are ever changing. And if you're putting in the work and you're doing all of the right things, you're on the right track, it's okay if it's not happening super fast. Number one, it's not going to happen overnight. Long lasting change takes time. But number two, even if you're having like a really crappy body image day, the best thing that you can do is kind of just be like, all right, it is what it is right now. There's not anything else I can do to change it aside from all the things that I'm doing to help me achieve this goal. I don't have to absolutely love how things look right now, but I don't have to hate them either. It can just be. And you can move on to the next thing, let that thought go, and focus on taking action on something that, is contributing to your overall well-being. I think it's a simple thing to do, but it's not easy. It's definitely something that is a practice, and it will feel strange at first if you're used to talking down to yourself. But another thing I think that helps too, along with that, is ask yourself, if you are in that spiral and you're like saying how much you hate this and that about yourself, whether you're getting dressed or changed, or maybe you catch yourself in the mirror, would you talk to a friend the way that you're thinking about your own body? And the answer that most of you, I would hope, have is probably not. So remind yourself that, to give yourself grace. Talk to yourself as you would a friend. If someone was coming to you for advice, if you don't have a coach to lean on to go back and forth with this, what would you tell a friend who's struggling? You would probably tell them to focus on what they can control, take action on some things that will make them feel better, and just let that thought go. So that's my 2 cents on how to handle a negative body image day.
And all that said, I know it sounds like this came off, you can't focus entirely or focus at all on improving body comp and looking good and feeling good. When you're doing all those other things we're talking about, you are going to be happy with the changes you're making and eventually with how you look and how you feel together. The last month, prior to this month, I'm not thriving right now, but prior to this month, for the first time in a long time, I was very happy with how my body came through, and the compositions, the changes I've made in my body composition. And this was with scaling training back overall. So I dropped from 5 or 6 days a week down to 4. For those of you who've been following along, we've got the Evolve Hybrid program coming out in September. That's what I've been doing for the last 6 months, and I've been kicking ass with it. I've been getting stronger, very, very happy with body composition, been feeling really good. So when you have these 5 pillars in place, again, training, nutrition, mindset, movement, habits, when you have staples in that you do long term, you've committed to these, whether it's 6 months, a year, 5 years from now, doing all these things, you're going to love how you feel and you're going to love how you look. You're going to be in great shape across the board. So it's not just put looks on the side. But when you're focusing on all these things as a whole, your overall health actually improves, and you're going to be very happy with how you look. And then the last point I want to hit on, and you can, if you have anything else you want to throw in here, we can do that as well. But just again, kind of evaluating your inputs, the people you're following, the content you're consuming, the shows you're watching, like what is going into how you feel, not only with how you look, but how you feel about yourself. I have unfollowed several quote unquote influencers that I've followed for a long time because it's obviously come out. And some I didn't know to begin with that they were on drugs, but it came out and then now they're open, and it's just, they got great physiques, but it also pushed me towards the wanting of doing, jumping on TRT early and doing some other things that I really don't need to do. And I'm glad that I didn't. I tried those when things were really bad for my health, going bad with my health. About a year ago. Mm-hmm. So I lasted literally a week and a half on just a supplemental dose of TRT and then a few peptides. It just elevated my heart rate a little bit, and it was very uncomfortable. But it was a blessing in disguise. I didn't get on those, and I wasn't on those long term by any means. I had to get back to the basics, figure out, okay, that didn't work. What can I do? I ended up getting a gut test done, working on some parasite removal and improvement in bacteria in my gut, and then repopulating with the good stuff. So that helped me establish a base, and then I did some other things, all natural, and just refine my routine again. And then again, I got to the point where I was happy. I got to a point where I was hoping to get to with TRT and supplements and peptides and all that. So reflecting on what you're consuming, what you're taking in, removing those things. They're not even necessarily negative. Like a lot of these guys are good people, but knowing I'm not taking that route and we're not on the same path and we don't have the same lifestyle, I don't want to be pushed where I have a bad day and then I'm reconsidering jumping on TRT too early or jumping back into peptides when I don't need them at this point. So again, guys, it's very easy to just subconsciously consume, and then not even realize what's having this negative impact on how we feel about ourselves and how we think we look personally. So do a little audit. What are you taking in from where? What do you need to screen, filter out, and then kind of move forward from that point?
The only other thing I'd like to add is how I kind of broke the negative body image / body dysmorphia bodybuilding era of my life is when I switched gears and focused on a performance sport. So after bodybuilding, I really dove headfirst into powerlifting, and powerlifting, doesn't matter what you look like at all. You're judged on performance. So squat, bench, deadlift, how strong you are. And that definitely broke me out of like obsessing over having the perfect body. And, nowadays there's so many different things you can do performance wise. I think we have a whole podcast on just different events and races and things that you can compete in. But I would say majority of you listening would really benefit from focusing on performance in the gym, whether it's with your lifts or you start running or you cycle or whatever it is. Like, focus on improving those metrics. If you need something to hyper focus on, that's not your body, and it can be a really fun and just enjoyable break from just focusing on working out to look a certain way. So I just wanted to leave you with a little actionable step if you are not somebody who currently focuses on performance.
Agreed. All right, let's wrap it up there. Where can they find you?
I'm at Alessandra Skutnik.
I'm at Josh Skutnik.
Everything else you need is linked in the show notes.